From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt, and this is Weather or Not. We had cold temperatures this morning in eastern KELOLAND. You know, enough to set some records across the east, not for everybody, but we'll run through a couple of those record low temperatures. Precip chances, Saturday's Clipper. You know, this outline hasn't changed. I don't think it's changed in 2 or 3 days, which is good considering, we're in the business of forecasting the weather. So when you don't have to change it, I guess you're doing a pretty good job. And we'll also look at the pattern over here for the next 2 weeks. But let's go ahead and start with our immediate forecast. And something that I do not want to get lost is the fact that we will have strong southerly winds. Some of these wind gusts near 40 miles per hour and more. Notice that number near Lake Benton, 48 miles per hour. Now, this is just a snapshot, maybe around 2 o'clock this afternoon. We could see a couple of these wind gusts approaching these levels, upper 30s, upper 40s for that mile per hour range across eastern South Dakota, western Minnesota. And if you have some snow on the ground, I think many locations do, you'll probably have areas of blowing snow. Temperatures will be warmer today as compared to what we had yesterday. In fact, we're going a better direction. We're going up during the day instead of remaining steady and falling like we did yesterday afternoon. Now, even though the official high temperature yesterday was at 34, that was at midnight. After that, temperatures just fell through the overnight hours. But even though we won't hit those levels, the afternoon numbers will be warmer than what we had yesterday afternoon. So there's our wind for today. South picking up 15, 30 miles per hour on occasion. Then we do have relatively light winds. We'll watch the Clipper come through. When that happens, northeast winds will come in around 30 miles per hour. So as the snow's falling during the day, we may have these winds increase. As you can see, Futurecast thinking some of these wind gusts in that 20 to near 30 mile per hour range. So keep that in mind with any travel plans you may have. And right now, we'll talk more about the snow coming up with Brian Karstens here in just a bit. But right now, we are looking at the best areas for the accumulating snows lining up from northwestern South Dakota into southeastern KELOLAND. Doesn't happen today. We are looking at maybe a light wintry mix for tonight, but today is looking dry. You can see on Futurecast, it tries to bring in this light wintry mix. Moisture is very limited, but it doesn't take much to give you some slick conditions. So as we get through the late evening, overnight hours, we may see some precipitation on KELOLAND Live Doppler radar. And then for tomorrow, we do have thicker clouds in our forecast. But with those thicker clouds, temperatures will be a little bit warmer. Many areas in eastern, southeastern KELOLAND should at least get close to freezing. We'll say near 30 degrees. And you notice maybe a couple of stray snow showers in the air. That's at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We could see a couple of stray snow showers, parts of eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. And then as this Clipper comes through, the snow becomes a little more widespread. You see that at 6 o'clock in the morning, starting in western South Dakota, eventually moving east and a slight push to the southeast. And we'll continue to follow the trends with this. But right now, it's trying to bring in some of the heavier snows in southeastern South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. And like I mentioned before, we'll talk more about how much snow you can expect coming up as meteorologist Brian Karstens joins us coming up a little bit later. But for today, temperatures in the 20s, eastern South Dakota 30, near 40 degrees in central and western KELOLAND. 41 is our going high in Rapid City today. Tonight, not nearly as cold. Clouds will be thick. Temperatures will fall to the teens and 20s for overnight lows. Coming up, we'll talk about our record cold from this morning in parts of eastern KELOLAND. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Something that we were advertising, the possibility for record low temperatures, and we set a couple of those record lows in parts of eastern KELOLAND. Let's go ahead and take a look at record lows going into this morning, and we thought the best areas would be eastern and southeastern KELOLAND to set records. 13 below the record in Sioux Falls, 13 below in Worthington, 9 below in Spencer, 3 below in Yankton, and that 18 below in Aberdeen. That's an important number because from what I saw this morning, we actually tied that number in Aberdeen, falling to 18 below. I think that happened around 2 o'clock in the morning. We'll have a graphic showing that too. Other locations that set records this morning, Yankton down to 4 below, 17 below in Spencer, Iowa. Sioux Falls, we fell to 7 below, 9 below in Worthington, 7 below in Marshall, 14 below in Brookings, and 13 below the temperature this morning in Watertown. But I want to show you these numbers in northeastern South Dakota, Aberdeen in particular, down to 18 below. Notice the time coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then after that, temperatures started to warm by 3 o'clock. Give it an hour. And we had temperature at 7 below in Aberdeen. Now, at the same time, we were starting to see some cloud cover roll in. By the time we get into 5 o'clock, the temperature at 4 degrees, while those numbers to the east and southeast of Aberdeen still showing some of those numbers in the single digits and lower teens below zero. Something else about Aberdeen, the wind started to change direction, more of a southerly wind. We introduced some cloud cover. Temperatures warmed as we went beyond 2 o'clock in the morning. But we did cool enough to see that temperature fall to 18 below to at least tie that record. We'll see if we get an in-between hour temperature. If that comes in, maybe that'll come in and actually set a record low. But right now, from what I've seen this morning, Aberdeen fell to 18 below, tying the record low. Well, coming up, we'll be joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens as we talk about our precipitation chances tonight, tomorrow, and, of course, Saturday's Clipper coming in to give us accumulating snows for KELOLAND. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. Before I introduce Brian Karstens, or Brian, just feel free to go over this graphic.
What are we doing here, Scott? Ooh,
Could this be the winter of clippers? It's starting that way.
I think that's definitely warranted, given the numbers that we've had so far, and maybe a little explanation behind clippers. I like this graphic, Scott.
Yeah, the low-pressure system, we watch these systems come in from the northwest when we're stuck in this northwest flow. They start at the province of Alberta in Canada. They come down to the southeast through the northern plains. They don't always follow this storm track. That's our job to figure out, okay, where are they going and what will they do when they go through those certain locations. So it's our job to figure that stuff out, and I think your graphic is doing that too.
Yeah, kind of to set this whole thing up here. It's interesting because you can see that tomorrow we've got a little bit of a kind of just a messy, a little bit of snow, a little bit of a wintry mix. It's still part of this whole northwest flow of weather, and so it's hard to completely clear these things out, but this is an example of what we're seeing here on Friday. So the idea of a couple of areas getting even an inch of snow tomorrow is not far-fetched.
It will be a warmer day tomorrow. Let's not forget that.
Yes, warmer air ahead of that cold front, so we'll be in the low 30s in Sioux Falls. We really haven't increased the Sioux Falls level of precipitation all that much. I just think right now it's very much a light event. But it's going to set the foundation here for this Saturday's system. So we drew in this at least 2 days ago. Maybe it was 3 days ago. And Scott, I was commenting to you earlier about this because when I hand drew this, I was thinking more stock in the AI version of the European. So put this together, thinking, well, okay, we'll just broad brush this. Well, of course, now we're at a point where the snow is trending a little bit more. This is the map we showed this morning on television, and this is an overlay of the European model's snow prediction. And I left the white line there just to kind of give us the highlight of that original assumption there. So when we talk about accumulating snow with an Alberta clipper, you do have to pay attention because you can get some very efficient snowfall rates, and the timing is during the day on Saturday.
Remember the timing, the first one in November, that was at night. So we were really efficient at making that snow.
Very early in the morning, too. That was a Saturday morning because I had that tour group.
Yep, that's right.
Remember that? I had the 25 kids in here.
I wasn't here, but...
You weren't here. I had 20. Yeah.
While it was snowing, I'm sure they were excited.
Oh, yes. We showed the radar, too. So here's the deal. Okay, that was a clipper. Second weekend of November. We've had a couple since then, and now look at the probability of an inch of snow with this. Those are pretty high numbers, Scott.
It's going up, and we'll watch the placement of this too. And you're right, yeah, those are high numbers. Anytime you get into that red, it's usually, 75, 80% chance and above. And you see how it is trying to line itself to go to the southeast. We'll see where things do start. I wouldn't be surprised to see that start across northwestern South Dakota, eventually move into southeastern KELOLAND, up it to 3 inches or more, and look where it's showing up. Southeastern South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota. In fact, we do have that little area of red in there, too, from Worthington down towards Spencer, Iowa, where that's, like I said, about 75, maybe 80% chance or higher that they could see 3 inches of snowfall or more.
Yeah. And that's, pretty healthy for a clipper. I would say this system is definitely leaning into that. Now, this discussion, I'll let you start.
Right. I'll run through a couple of different models with this, okay? Don't get glued exactly to what these numbers are showing. Brian and I will go through these and try to explain what's going on, what we agree with, what we don't agree with. But I put together, I think, 4 or 5 different models. So we'll go through what these are saying, and they'll show a range as to the snowfall according to their model. So just off the bat, Brian, I would say we see those numbers of 5 to 10, okay? Those stand out. People always go, 10 inches of snow. Okay, it's a range. It's a range, 5 to 10, okay? Doesn't mean everybody's going to get that high end of that 5 to 10 range. No. I would say toward the lower end of that range. It's just how the model comes to that point and says, okay, this one point, it's 5 to 10.
Yep, and that's how the coding
just a spread.
Yep, when we pluck the number out of Sioux Falls, it's still within the 5-inch range, so it just puts that in there. Now, here's the thinking on this too. What's the trend? Well, we see the bullseye, right? We see the darker blue colors in the southeast. So there's agreement. We like to look at places where we find agreement and disagreement, and that's good logical thinking skills applied. So when we look at this map, we're like, okay, this shows a little more here. Now, you've got a couple others, right?
Oh, yeah. We'll go ahead and run right through these. So that's our Barron 3K, Barron 15K. The resolution's not as great. It's still showing that 5 to 10. Okay, but a very narrow band. You notice that? Northwestern South Dakota and the southeastern KELOLAND, very narrow band. And I don't know if you can, because you explained this not necessarily during the newscast, but behind the breaks, behind the scenes, of our snow depth.
I knew what you were going to say.
As soon as I saw your arm go. So let me know when you have that ready.
It's right here.
Okay, so
5 seconds. See,
let's just go ahead and bring that up. As you've been mentioning that these systems like to follow the gradient in the temperature, the difference in the temperature.
They do, yeah. And see this is our existing snow cover. So let's put this theory to the test. Let's see if the surface low track kind of comes out of Billings, Montana, rides there into north central Nebraska, and then where the depth of the snow is already higher to the left of that surface low path, then the assumption would be we'll just add a little more depth to that as it follows that line. And then maybe that'll be the line that'll come back again for future reference. I think winters can kind of go that route. It'll change a little bit, I'm sure, the next time, but it's interesting, isn't it? We'll see that.
Oh, it really is, and we'll see how this fills in, how this map fills in for the snow cover. And we usually, you might hear us say we need snow to make snow. Well, we have a good blanket of snow on the ground right now. Keeps our temperatures colder. Of course, that's what we need to get snow to go. And that's what the trend that we're in with this northwest flow, even though we'll eventually next week try to bring in warmer temperatures, and we'll talk more about that in the next segment. We are looking at a good blanket of snow. Show that snow depth all the way to the north and northwest, Montana, North Dakota, well to our east and southeast. We can't forget about that either. So
a lot of snow.
We do have a decent blanket of snow, not only for us, but even extending to the east. I think my parents, just outside Chicago in Elgin, I think they're a little heavier when they're in their snowfall department than we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kentucky, you go all the way through Ohio, Pennsylvania, there's been a lot of snow on the ground. So, yes, then, of course, every time we get a little more snow, we just add to this refrigeration effect. So this clipper will kind of follow that. And, yes, this thing eventually will turn the corner, and that's what clippers do. When they get down here in the lower Mississippi Valley, then they ride up into the Northeast, and I'll bet you anything that'll be a pretty decent snowmaker for New England.
It'll be national headlines, won't it?
It always happens that way, Scott. It's funny how that works. But, yeah, back here at home, though, we're just thinking, we'll add to this depth of snow. The exact range, again, these are model forecasts. Mm-hmm. These are not our official numbers. But for this audience, for this show, we decided to throw these on here and have a conversation about it.
But you said look at the trend. The trend here is to put the heaviest snows in eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. The European model's thinking 4 to 6. Okay, that's a little less than what our in-house numbers, the Barron models, were suggesting 5 to 10. Not to say we can't get 5 inches, but 10 inches might be the stretch.
Right. Yeah. You're going to have to be really relying on some ratios, some snow ratio kind of math. Yeah.
I'm not I understand the concept behind snow ratios. I don't enjoy forecasting relying on snow ratios. That makes it a little tough.
It is. It is a mathematical formula. And basically what that is we do kind of a spread based on the temperature profile, not just at the surface either. It's kind of a derivative of what's going on in the cloud layer, how efficiently those snowflakes are being manufactured. So not going to get into all of that, but the bottom line is, again, look at the GFS. The American model, same thing. It's got that darker blue in the southeast. It's the same idea. So the concept's there. It's these little particulars. We'll have to tighten up that gradient of snow a little bit, but I think it's pretty likely you're going to have enough to shovel, Scott.
Well, and they're showing it's widespread too. Northwestern South Dakota, central into eastern KELOLAND, maybe not as heavy. Southwestern South Dakota.
Right.
It was nice to see the hills get their snow earlier in the week. They had the winter weather advisory, and we were able to show the Terry Peak live cam.
And good for skiers and the economy that revolves around winter activities in the northern hills. And we're always aware of that. So we don't, snow's not a bad thing when it comes to, those that need to make a living off of some of those winter activities.
It's just a headache to drive every now and then.
It complicates lives a little bit more. That's always true. And to round things up, you got the Canadian model. Same thing, farther north, though, storm track.
Yes. And this kind of surprised me because I know earlier in the week, this was pointing to the heavier snows in southeastern, even yesterday, southeastern South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota.
And remember, the track is, in my view, that's what holds the keys here. When we get into, and you've got to be a little flexible on that because northwest flow patterns are notorious for subtle changes in a storm track. And so even a little, think of it like a slingshot coming out of the northwest. And if you aim that slingshot just 2 degrees difference, and then you cast that downstream all the way from Alberta down to South Dakota, okay, think of that concept in your mind, how much of a difference that can shift that 50 miles.
Yeah.
Easy.
Just 2 degrees.
I mean, that's what it is. So maybe that helps somebody understand this a little bit better. And the computer is trying to figure that out. But again, it's a very subtle change. So that's the reason you're going to see some of those differences amongst those models. But we hope that we'll consolidate a little bit more tomorrow.
So what the trend's been, things are moving south or have been moving south, even going back to November's snow twice.
Yes.
The beginning and in the end of the month. I think those started north and they ended up south. This one, I think, has been doing the same thing. Starting north, we're starting to see the slow trend down to the south. That I do think there will be areas in southeastern South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. That southeastern area will probably end up with, on average, the higher snow totals.
Yeah. And I think you're right. That trend is there to lean into as well. So we'll see if that verifies. I'll be here tomorrow. You won't be here tomorrow.
I will not.
Doing some Christmas shopping or other things?
Doing some preparations for Christmas gatherings.
Lots of those this time of year.
Lots of those. And maybe a couple of gifts will be bought here and there.
Oh, yes.
We'll talk about our long-range forecast coming up. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not. Brian, let's go ahead and jump right into our extended outlook.
Okay, so once we get through the weekend, cold, by the way, on Sunday, still talking about that, but Monday, Tuesday, we start to moderate, so we can bring back 20s and 30s East River, 40s West River. That's Monday. How about Tuesday? Well, we're going to stick with this, Scott. You know, I showed this on TV, and I had to remind the audience of who was well known for mentioning the banana belt. Mr. Captain 11.
You have to play,
Dave Dedrick.
You have to hit the play button, too.
Oh,
You have to
yeah.
do the real
Okay,
effect.
hold on. Let me see if I can do this. There we go.
There, you got to
There's
get those to move.
my cheap version of banana belt. I got some little, I don't know why they're floating. That graphic, I don't know. They got the
That's
point
okay.
across, right?
Gets the point across, stands out. Got my attention this morning when you had it on KELOLAND this morning.
That was my point. Yeah. 50s. I like 50s. There were the idea of 50s. But
Well, right. The question is, can we get any of those to move to the east and southeast? But
it's not Sioux Falls, is it? That's a lot colder than 50s.
Right. But I still think as we get into next week, we'll try to bring these temperatures back to freezing, melting temperatures. But I don't think that will last either.
That's right.
We're having this tug of war between these above average temperatures and below average temperatures that we'll have to watch closely. Because every time that happens, I mean, it's been a prime example over these past couple of days is we get the temperature back and forth and we bring in this light wintry mix, which of course can give us some bad roads too.
And any cloud cover that automatically caps the potential too. So yeah, it's not a clear shot to getting real warm weather, but if we can at least get to normal or a little above normal next week in a couple of periods, that's kind of our thinking.
Yeah, that's 30s. Be able to melt some of the snow and ice, and it will be new snow at that. From what you see there from falling this weekend. This is the European model. Then as we go beyond this weekend for the rest of the 14-day outlook, we don't add much. We don't see any big storms coming through right now. We can still see maybe a couple of these days with a light wintry mix. Don't be surprised to see that in the forecast. And on the American model, more or less the same thing. This weekend, it picks up on that snow, and then it just goes with the hit and miss chances, I would think, of a light wintry mix from time to time. But keep in mind, too, with what we have out there right now, anytime you get a wintry mix to run through, you could have a problem with those roads.
That's right. We want you to stay safe and stay up on the weather.
That's our time for this latest edition of Whether or Not. Have yourself a great day.